right, welcome in here on this Friday, the Maize and Blue Review Afternoon Live. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're part of Rivals.com. We're talking about the latest in Michigan sports. There's plenty to talk about Michigan sports, and it's great to bring on a Wolverine, and that is Jared Wangler, who joins us here for his second appearance. I think it's the first time we've had a repeat guest here on the Afternoon Live broadcast, so that says a lot about Jared.
It's an honor, Dennis, recurring guest. I don't know if I have that on my resume yet anywhere for media, so I'll take it.
You got it. It's great to have you on. It would be better. That's great, but it would be better, of course, if we were talking about Michigan advancing in the tournament. They didn't do it, and you don't have to break a whole lot down. I saw this tweet, and I thought it said it all. It's from John Neo of the one of the Detroit papers here, and he said Michigan. He had counted it up, 12 of 29 on dunks and layups and 7 of 14 from the free throw line, and they lost by 8. Tough way to end the season. That pretty much says it all right there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, when you watch the game, like there was no, I guess, hidden mystery behind it. Like we weren't really converting, but they were playing tough, moving the ball around. I thought we had a really good strategy. I thought the coaches did a phenomenal job, put him in a position. And I mean, players played hard, but sometimes it just doesn't shake your way.
Yeah, I think all of that's right. And what Neo has to say about them missing some of the very makeable shots and, of course, free throws, which they've been really good at all year long and really good as of late. But there's under 3 minutes to play, 2:48 to go. And Terrence Williams, he had a pretty good look at a three-point shot. Myself and a lot of other people were saying, hey, work it around a little bit. It was shot early in the clock, but Michigan was only down 4. He connects that. We're talking about a 1-point game with 2:48 to go. That's how close. All of those things, and everybody's saying, it's correct about them missing bunnies and all of that. But, they were that one shot away from being right there to making it like a nip and tuck game right at the end.
For sure. Well, I think college basketball is just so much about momentum. And, I mean, when you look at the play right before Terrence Williams shot that 3, like I think he had either a layup or he made a really, really nice play. And you could tell he was kind of in rhythm. So, although it was early in the shot clock, I don't ever doubt a player for when they're feeling it, they're in rhythm, and it's a part of the offense to take that shot because everyone's seen him play. He can make those kind of plays. So, I'm fortunate the way it swung, but they got the momentum at the end and they were able to convert. And tough way to end the season.
I don't know where you stand, but for me, this is Juwan Howard's third year. Last year was such an incredible season. They kind of came out of nowhere to end up being a number 1 seed, and then they won the Big Ten. And they validated it by getting all the way to the Elite 8. They had 3 shots, pretty good shots, to get to the Final Four. And it was just an incredibly entertaining season, and it was needed because of COVID and everything. It was awesome to take in, and I just loved the year. And then the offseason, a preseason number 6. I think being able to get to the Sweet 16 after some ups and downs here, it just shows where the program is headed. It's in good hands here with Juwan Howard. If they wouldn't have made the tournament, you wouldn't have said, "Oh, get Juwan Howard out of here," but you'd say, "Ooh, that's a step back from where this thing looked like it was going," and following the legend in John Beilein. So, after this sting wears off a little bit, I think people are going to feel pretty good about the men's basketball program.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, when you just take a deep breath and just look back on what Juwan Howard has been able to do and how he's just carrying that torch and the program hasn't stumbled, right? We're complaining about this. I mean, a lot of fans, obviously there was ups and downs in the season, but we just made it to the Sweet 16. I think has it been the past 5 years we've been to the Sweet 16? Or am I making that up? I mean, we're in a very strong position as a program. And we have young players that are developing, right? And you look at some of the players that could come back next year and be able to build on that and just continue to bake in this Michigan culture that Coach Howard is kind of driving into the program. I couldn't be more excited about the status of that. And I think it just as a whole to what Ward has done. I think all the programs, when you look at it across the board, Joel Honingford had a great quote that everyone picked up on. We're an everything school right now. There's not many athletic departments that you can look around and just see that kind of excellence across the board. So really excited about the state of where all the programs are going, especially basketball.
Yeah, I like all of it. And what I really like are the games and the competition and talking about them. But when teams do have a successful season, there's no doubt that you get to the off season and everybody's feeling good. The football program, it has been a while since I don't need to tell you, but people that are watching and listening, that they had won the Big Ten, and now they got to the college football playoff, and it was such a fantastic ride and everything. Now you look back, it's kind of like cloud nine all off season. You talk to Michigan fans, like, yeah, we're good. Can't wait to the season. It's awesome. It's going to go fast. And, you just savor it, and it's great. It was that way with the basketball team after last year. I thought, that people were talking about, hey, you think they can win it all? I was like, yep, I sure do. I think Dickinson coming back. Juwan's pulling all the right, pushing all the right buttons, pulling all the right levers. So that part continues, and so that's going to continue into the offseason. You mentioned a key part about guys that are coming back in a couple minutes. A little tease here, a little radio tease. You working for Valiant Michigan UMG and the NIL. I would ask you a few questions about that. In a couple minutes, I wanted to ask you about some of the particulars. I've got a tweet from a former Michigan basketball player that I thought was interesting, and I'll throw everybody's way. So I know you got all that. You're taking your valuable time away here to talk with us, and I can't wait to talk a little bit about that with you. But you go, and it kind of leads us right to the next thing, because now you get to later on today, and I follow hockey, but it's really hard. Like when you got basketball, women's, you got everything going on. There's nothing like the NCAA college hockey tournament, and Michigan being the number one seed in here for as long as this lasts, and hopefully it lasts all the way to the end, and they win another national championship, and they could, and that's the expectation. These games are just out of sight, Jared. I don't know how much you take into the hockey.
So my roommates in college actually played on the hockey team. We had like a half football, half hockey house. So, during the regular season, I felt like we were either like busy with our season or like we were in spring ball. But then it kind of got to this time of year, and like I got to watch those guys play in the hockey tournament, and it's almost like a March Madness feel to it. Like it really is exciting to watch. Like they really get out there, and it's very, very competitive. I don't have a hockey background, and also like I'm not here to. I don't know whose technical skills are and who's who, but like you go out there and you see like what Mel Pearson has done and kind of where this program's at right now. Like they're firing all cylinders. I mean, they're gonna be fun to watch this. This upcoming few weeks.
Yeah, well, 3:00 today they face off. So just in a couple hours, I'll be glued to the TV watching that. And this is a superstar lineup. Like they got number one picks, first round picks everywhere. This is like, one of the, you say it going in, and sometimes it sounds crazy, or, you hear this is one of the greatest teams ever iced and, in college, but it is. And so that part is exciting.
1, 2, 4, and 5, I think what it was in the draft. I mean, like, has that ever happened before? I can't imagine that's ever anything close to that. So
it hasn't. And these guys, they've had the expectations all year long. And to your point, it being like March Madness in basketball, it is. The thing that makes March Madness great is that you have all the upsets and everything else. You don't want that, of course, if you're Michigan, because you're the number one seed, but it's like the Stanley Cup playoffs. Everybody likes the hockey when they say, what do they like? Everybody likes a game 7. It's like all of these are game 7s. And so it's off the charts. And so I'll be ready today at 3:00. I will. Yep. All right. Well, I have to, and here's the bracket I just wanted to put up for people who are tuning in. There were some games last night. There were 4 of them during the day. But here's Michigan up in the upper left against American International, and you can see their route, how they can score.
Michigan Tech's in there, Western Michigan's in there. We're pretty well represented in there, the state of Michigan.
Yeah, we are. No, you're right about that, and hopefully we see it would be a nice Michigan flavor to get to the Frozen Four. I should also mention that the women's basketball team, they're in the Sweet 16. It was a little bit confusing this weekend. Michigan, Villanova, the women played Villanova, and then they beat them. And you're like, wait a second, I thought that game was on Thursday. I was like, oh, it was the women, and then and now the women play tomorrow against. And you see it on the crawl there. The women's team is playing South Dakota, and that is a 6:30 jump on ESPN2. So they've really got something going over there. The Chrysler's filling up. People are going bananas. It's awesome to see. And that's a program for the longest time that wasn't in the limelight, but they got it going now.
They do. Yeah. Kimura Zarico, she's a stud, right? They've recruited so well over the past few years. Like the culture there within that locker room is really, really strong. my sister actually played. She walked on the basketball team years ago, and she played for KBA and couldn't say enough great things about her. And so it's exciting to see where the program's at. Obviously, like Naz Hillman is an absolute stud. Like goes down and she's a legend at Michigan, and she's still writing her story, and that team still has a long way to go to get to where they want to be, which is the national champion. So excited to watch them finish out strong. I mean, like the atmosphere at Chrysler when they were playing Villanova, like I wasn't there personally, but just seeing videos, like that place was rocking, and it just see that support for our women's basketball program and just see where they're going. It's great stuff.
Not a surprise to hear that about your sister. I know you don't know this, but back in the day, probably like 15 years ago, I played basketball with your dad. You know what? He had a pretty good. He had a knee injury, so he wasn't flying up and down the court. But it probably wouldn't be a huge surprise to you when he had the ball and he was bringing it up. He had a great arm. Like he could really
He's whipping around.
Well, you say that with quarterbacks, and you get that. But when you get out there on the when you're playing on the basketball floor, and you say like a baseball throw or something, like he would get it and he is gunning it to you, and he could fire it. Like if you're running up the floor, you just put your hands up, boom. And it was like, wow, I just got a pass from Jared Wangler. That was awesome. Yeah, you probably seen some video or heard some stories.
No doubt. I mean, little known fact, like he was actually like more heavily recruited for basketball coming out of high school than he was football. So basketball was kind of his first love, and then towards the end of his high school career is when he started getting some really big offers for football, but he was more of a basketball player growing up. He played JV at Michigan back when they had a JV team back in the Stone Ages. So he always talks about he gets together with some of the former Michigan guys, like, oh, these are some of my teammates. I'm like, no, those guys are on the varsity team. You're on the JV team. But like he just loves like talking those stories. Basketball is like first glove kind of thing for him.
Yeah, well, I can tell you he was impressive. So all that doesn't surprise me. I wanted to ask you something I mentioned, Valiant UMG, and I wanted to thank you guys supplying us with our top two prizes, Michigan versus everybody, and that it is going on at the Wolverine Den and the Maize and Blue Review. And so thanks for that. And thanks to VMG. I wanted to bring up, that's for people that don't know, I had to get the 3D in there, and we're looking at these NFTs, and I'm just all about these. I just can't get enough. I can sit there mesmerized looking at the screen all day long. We've got you got JJ McCarthy, you got Andrell Anthony, and then is that Donovan Edwards over there to the right?
Yes. Yep. That's Donovan.
Yeah, well, so this is something that you guys at Valiant and with NIL going on, and you guys had. How is this going? How is it received? I mean, it is as cool as can be. You think you could see more of these type of things coming Michigan fans' way, and if and probably around the country too.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely a new space. I mean, NIL is obviously very new, and NFTs are very, very new. We're excited to be able to work with the student athletes and create like a licensed product for like the NFT space, and bring something to the consumer, because there's a lot of people interested in purchasing these NFTs for what they believe is the longevity of digital trading cards, being able to sell them down the line, kind of like NBA Top Shot, if you're familiar with that. And what Dapper Labs is doing. So being able to bring that to Michigan, tie in cool experiences with the NFT, like for example, like Andrell Anthony, his 1-of-1 NFT. If you purchase that one, like you get a signed jersey, you get a signed mini helmet, you get a one-on-one Zoom call. So like not only are you like selling what it is, it's an NFT, but there's an access piece to it and a utility that seems very well received from the fan base. Where they can buy an NFT, but they also get a signed 8x10 photo from the player, or they get to hop on a Zoom call. So being able to kind of like bridge that gap between the athletes and the fans, and be able to create those engaging experiences through NFTs, I think that's a really cool niche to be in. And it's just kind of one of the many things that we're doing right now, like in the NIL space. So just trying to be creative, find different ways to make some money for the athletes, and obviously do it in a compliant manner and aligned with the school's interests. So been excited to get that first project off the ground, and we've got some exciting ones in the near future.
Yeah, I love collectibles. My problem is, and it's not a problem, I don't think I would ever sell it. I would get that thing and it would be nice to see the price go up or whatever else, but that would always stay with me. And I think the great thing about these, like, just putting it in a shoebox and putting it away for 20 years, whatever you have, your man cave, maybe right in the living room. I this thing, like, you could put it up on the wall. I mean, that's how sweet they look. That to me.
Yeah. Well, I think the next like iteration of these, like, there's companies coming out with like these like digital frame boards where you can actually like hang them up, and it's like you have your artwork in your living room, and you have to have obviously like Wi-Fi connection and be able to like hook up your MetaMask, which is like kind of your wallet that shows proof of ownership of the NFT. So like, I do think we're not too far away from a world where you actually do have like picture frames on the wall, and you have some sort of USB or whatever function it's tied to that has access to the NFTs that you actually own. And then it's actually projected and shown like in your living room, like a normal piece of art would. And then on like social media, I think Twitter's already taken the next step where your profile picture can actually be linked to an NFT that you own. So then you can showcase the NFT that you own on your social media. Instagram, they made an announcement recently that they're going to be able to showcase NFTs on profiles. So I do think it's like very new, and there's a lot of questions around it. And I think there's some actual like value to it long-term.
No, I think it's great, and it all makes sense. I have a picture frame where we just have the family in there with a USB, and those pictures change out like you might on your computer. But I also remember it's been 2 years since I've actually been there to the steakhouse in Ann Arbor. Ruth Chris, they have a pretty big digital screen right in the first dining area there, and they've got like great paintings from all over. And about every 5 minutes, it switches out, and you look at it, and you're like, "Whoa, that's a different one," and it looks awesome. So that's a kind of the similar type thing. So I like it. Yeah. I like where it's going. Let me show you this tweet from Tim McCormick, the former Wolverine. One of your dad's teammates, I think, maybe back in the day, right?
Yeah, he was probably Tim's on the varsity team. My dad might have been.
Yeah, Tim. I think you're right about that part. Let me see if I can get the crawl out of here. Just because the last part is the kind of the over the top part, because he expect each of these guys to return. McCormick, for those who are just listening on the podcast, says, will Hunter, Caleb, and Musa return? He's talking about the men's basketball team and Dickinson, Houstan, and Diabate. McCormick saying that he looked at 7 mock drafts and the 3 were nowhere to be seen. And then he says, Michigan versus the G League, charter versus commercial. He's talking about how you get there flying. Charter's a lot nicer. Anybody that's taking any charters, it's great. ESPN versus no TV. More money from NIL. You get to enjoy the college experience. You play for Juwan. McCormick predicting, he says, I expect each to test the NBA waters and return. So I put a little notepad up here, and I put your VMG logo on it here. I went back to football, and I don't know if you can answer these questions. If you can, it doesn't matter. But David Ajabo, who is of Scottish, Nigerian, American. He started in Nigeria, went to Scotland, then went to school here in America, but he couldn't get NIL benefits, Jared, I believe, because of he wasn't his
visa status. Yeah.
Right. And so I put Caleb Houstan and Musa Diabate. Houstan is Canadian, Diabate French. Would this affect these 2 players? Just thinking, I don't know the answer to this, and maybe you do, thinking about name, image, and likeness for 2 players on the basketball team, which could affect what they're thinking about. Hey, we can't get any name, image, and likeness type stuff.
Right. I mean, I can't really speak on it from Caleb and Musa's spot because I haven't worked with them. I don't know their specific situation. Yeah. I imagine they have agents and attorneys kind of working on this behind the scenes on their behalf. But yeah, for David's situation, I mean, we were very hands-on trying to find solutions for him. With him not being an American citizen and him being over here in the United States on a student visa, he wasn't allowed to render services here in the United States, or else like he's violating his student visa. So like that's not like a NCAA thing or a state government thing. Like that's the federal government, and you're like dealing with the Department of Homeland Security. And if you're caught like violating your visa, you can just be deported back to where you live, or where you're from. So yeah, David, we were trying to find just all the different ways to work around it. I mean, there's definitely like an argument to be made versus active and passive income, and being able to license out like your rights or allow a company to use your rights to like produce, let's say, apparel or bobbleheads or those kind of things where you're not actively promoting it as the international student, there's an argument to be made there. But there's just like, we were always advised, like, err on the side of caution for what you're doing for the international students, because like there's not really precedent, because this is all so new. So like, you don't want to be that first case and potentially jeopardize a student athlete's eligibility or their status here in the United States. So yeah, I'm not really sure what Caleb and Moose's like specific situations are, but like from first glance and from what I know is that like if they're here on a student visa, which I imagine like most international students are, they're not supposed to be rendering services for work here, which makes the NIL thing a little bit trickier.
From my vantage point, I saw about a month ago, ESPN put something out and said that the NCAA is, going to put out, I don't know if they said bylaws or just some language about the name, image, and likeness. Actually, I haven't seen that particular language that's coming out. So it's still like the initial go, like, okay, players can go out there and benefit off their name, image, and likeness. It feels to me like you and Michigan, like Michigan is one of the leaders of the pack here out. I know fans want more, and they want all the top recruits to come up with deals and everything else. But it's true. Like, you're taking stock in other universities. You're watching what everybody else is doing. I mean, this is your business. You guys are out front, and how would you look at the landscape here of name, image, and likeness, and where Michigan fits in?
So I think every school has, well, let's back it up. Yeah. Our fan base won't ever be satisfied, which makes our fan base great, right? Like, we made an announcement that like we've done over 7 figures in deals now for the athletes. And the immediate response is, well, why don't we have 26 million sitting in a pot to pay our recruits? Right. It's like
Tennessee, right? Like that's what
yeah, we're not doing it that way. And that's how other schools have been doing this thing forever. But I don't think that's the right way to operate in the NIL space. I don't think there's I personally don't think it's sustainable, but to each their own. But yeah, to answer your question, like how other schools are doing it and us keeping tabs, like we're absolutely like following and seeing what the best practices are at other schools. And we're in touch with like kind of like the Valiant equivalents, you'd say, at some other schools. Like, what do you call them? You call them a sports marketing agency, you call them an NIL management group, you call them a collective. There's a lot of different buzzwords, but yeah, every school kind of is like working out their own recipe, their own flavor. Like, we're less than a year into this thing. I mean, it's a long-term strategy that you got to build out. I do think the groups that are more so aligned with the school and making sure that they're doing it in a compliant manner, in a way that the school supports it and aligns with kind of the morals and how the school would like this to be done, are the ones that'll be successful long-term. But yeah, I think like for what we're doing as an agency, we're really proud of where we're at now and some of the support that we've been given and kind of direction we're going, because we're not just like sitting here pooling a ton of money and just blasting it out like at recruits, because that's not what NIL was meant to be. It's supposed to be able to compensate in an equitable manner some of these players that are like bringing a lot of value to the university. And I would say, you come to Michigan, the earning potential here, like it's our job to maximize that for you at Valiant. And some of the players that came out and performed at a high level this year, like they took home a lot of money. Like they earned themselves a lot of money. And we were able to help facilitate that and manage it for them. So that's an exciting piece of what we get to do. And we're excited about some of the initiatives that we're working on. We have an announcement coming tomorrow or Monday, around the spring game, where the fans will be able to do some engagement with the players, and it's an NIL oriented event. So, we're excited about where we're going. We know it's a long journey, but it's going in the right direction for sure.
I can tell you about Michigan fans. You're right. They're very passionate. And so, people automatically like, well, let's do this. People are very interested in name, image, and likeness. I mean, if it's not talked about every day, it's talked about every other day. Like, people want to know what's going on, what's Michigan doing, what's possibly going on here. So everybody's checking to see what you're doing and everything else. I like the logo that Will Johnson has going. There's a lot of stuff. Like, I could just tell what Michigan fans. We showed the NFTs there, and you see some of the logo stuff with Hutchinson. Had a different one. Of course, he's going to be the number 1 pick.
No, for sure. Yeah.
That's gonna be sweet.
For sure. I think it's awesome. Like, I mean, when you like boil down like what NIL is, like NIL isn't the logo. Like that NIL is the ability to now monetize like yourself and what you do, right? And so at the end of the day, it's sports marketing for college athletes. And so like, pro players, a lot of them have always had their logos, right? TB12 has like one of the most recognizable logos for a pro athlete. Same with Kobe, right? Same with LeBron. So like, it's cool that like these young athletes, now they get to express themselves, kind of what their identity, what they want to be. But at the end of the day, it's, you can brand yourself, you can do all that. It comes down to performing on the field and doing the right things in the classroom, doing the right things in the community. And that really sets yourself up to have a brand, right? And to be able to like keep pushing that and doing the right things and achieve the goals that you want to on and off the field.
You say this, I hope Hunter Dickinson, whenever he goes pro, I mean, the guy's going to play professionally somewhere, and hopefully it is the NBA, and hopefully he gets, plays there for 10, 15 years, whatever else. He's the bad boy from Michigan in the NBA, but he does have a decision to make. If I take you back to that tweet by McCormick, he does mention Hunter Dickinson and all these different things. He hasn't showed up in any of the mock drafts, so he'd have to go in as a free agent in the NBA. Would you think a guy like Hunter Dickinson, he is a known commodity now, and you just think about him being able to come back and being featured. MGO Blue has him on everything, constantly, the magazines. He's all over the place. I would think, and he's a pretty smart guy when it comes to this. He's not just sitting back. He looks like he's got his computer open once in a while. I would think that he would be able to weigh all this. It'll be a very interesting case of a guy who at some point could go to the NBA, but would he come back for another year? And what his image and likeness could do for himself. It's a very fascinating case, I think, when it comes down to Hunter Dickinson.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you look at him, like super talented player, definitely marketable, right? Like he has his own big Dickinson energy stuff. I mean, he's got a big personality. He gets up there, he speaks his mind. He's playing here at the University of Michigan, right? He's a very, very talented player, and he's got a big decision to make because, he's probably always dreamed about going to the NBA. And sometimes if there's a window of opportunity, I mean, these mock drafts that are out now, like those will likely adjust and flip, several times before draft day actually comes. So who knows like where he shakes out and if he wants to make that move or not. Obviously, us being here at Michigan, like selfishly, we'd like for him to come back and play all 4 years here. And obviously would like for NIL to be a big part of that because when you look back at like some of the big like Michigan staples, I don't know, like I think of like Hunter can be like a Denard Robinson type name, right? Where like you're here all 4 years, you're like from your freshman year to your senior year, you're kind of like the guy on the team and you do things the right way. Like obviously you got your jersey sales, you got your memorabilia stuff, you got your signing events, you got all these different like ways to monetize like what you do now. Like you could potentially see higher earning potential while you're in college at Michigan than you do if you go to the NBA. Like, and that's just not obviously that's your off the field marketing stuff, not your contract stuff. So like, I mean, would love to be able to see him come back. It would be phenomenal. Love for NIL to be a piece of that, but he's got a decision to make. And obviously as a fan base, everybody should support him either way because he's given more than enough to the school. Right. But selfishly, everyone wants him back, obviously.
Yeah, no doubt. Like if he goes to the NBA, you wish him the best, and he'll be playing pro basketball for a long time. You do think about it, like I know he shot in high school, and then he wasn't asked to shoot from outside when he was a freshman. He was a really a low post guy, and that's where he makes his hay. Although he was popping out and throwing that jumper up. Now, the NBA guys say, if he can get that defensive stance and he can work on that pick and roll, and he can show, and he can do all these things. You can get better with your footwork, and whether it's boxing or, there's all kinds of different things that you can do to improve your stance and get agility drills and all of that. It wouldn't be out of the question if he made the kind of jump that he did from freshman to sophomore, if he came back and he made that decision to junior year, that he could put himself even into the first round.
Absolutely. Well, I think the big thing now, like, especially with a lot of athletes, like you think like, oh, I need to be a one and done to go to the NBA, or I need to be a two and done to go to the NBA. Like, yeah, like, that's kind of skewed towards younger talent, but at the same time, like he's still young relatively. Like I think 21 years old, like 22, like you're still developing as an athlete, right? Until your mid 20s. So yeah, like you look at the jump he made from his freshman year to his sophomore year, what he added to his game, what he was able to do. I'm sure like last year when he went to go test the waters, they were telling him, hey, you need to be able to, generate some outside touch, right? Be able to shoot the three, like showcase that you can do that. And he did, right? He built on that. Now maybe, he goes and tests the waters, and who knows, maybe they tell him, hey, we'd like to see you move your feet a little bit better, be able to guard on the perimeter. Like in the NBA, like you're going to be matched up against big guys that can move. Like you got to be able to sit in a stance. So not saying you can't, but obviously there's always things to improve on. And like you said, that could be something where he takes that next jump, and who knows, maybe next year he comes back and he's, got that piece added to his game, and then he's a potential lottery pick. Like, who knows how that stuff shakes out.
Yeah, I don't think he's Jokic, the reigning MVP or anything, but like all pro sports, they look at it and they say, well, does this guy look like this guy, or does this guy play?
Yeah.
And he is a U.S. guy, but the European big man, he's got a lot of that skill set. Now you see him, and he's a pretty good passer too, and so all those things you say, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to watch in the offseason, and Michigan's given us something here, basketball-wise, to be excited about in the offseason. These coaches, they've got to fit these pieces of the puzzle together. Guys could go. Who do they want coming back? They got to hit the transfer portal immediately.
It's a whole other layer of recruiting is the transfer portal. It's nuts, but it's the reality.
Yeah, and you got to break. You better think about having some upperclassmen or some up transfers or whatever it is. And for Michigan, it worked fabulously last year with Mike Smith and Shawnee Brown. Couldn't have been any better. I mean, they hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
And then this year, Devontae Jones, it took him a little while to get acclimated to working with those two bigs, but he was Michigan's, by mid-season, he was Michigan's second best player, and they wouldn't have been in the tournament if it wasn't for Devontae Jones playing great against Ohio State. So, yeah, they'll be going the transfer portal route again here soon.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, most big programs, I'm going to see that. Anytime you have like a hole or like a position you're trying to fill, I mean, it's the most logical thing, right? Like you got a guy, they're developed, they can come in, play right away. You just hope they can mesh. And it's a big part of college athletics now. I don't know. I mean, not to say that I don't agree with the transfer portal, because I think it's a very good thing, but I do think eventually it's just, it just like NIL and that mixed together, it's just super Wild West right now. But it is, I think it's good. It's a good thing, but it maybe needs to be tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, you hinted at the spring game. Last question for you. I'm hoping it's going to be 70 degrees and everybody's going to have a great day. I know Troy Woolfolk, the former Wolverines, challenging everybody to a sprint, down there on the field. I don't know if that's going to happen if you're ready to race a Woolfolk out there. But anything closer to what's going on? Just keep an eye out. You think it's going to be before the spring game, after the spring game, going to be some festivities with Valiant VMG? You guys going to be springing something here for the spring game here within the next 24 hours, you say, huh?
Correct. Yeah. So we're partnering with the MDN on this project, like we have with a ton of our NIL stuff. I will say, like, if you are someone out there, the Michigan fan base, and you support NIL, like, go support the MDN. Find a way, because they've stepped up big time for NIL stuff for Michigan student athletes. But yeah, like, I don't want to like overpromise and underdeliver, because it may not be in the next 24 hours, but we're going to make an announcement. There's going to be a really, really cool NIL event directly after the spring game, something the fans are definitely going to enjoy. So that's what I can share for now.
Well, after basketball and hockey, I'll be zeroing in on that spring game. I can't wait. And it's not too long. So April the 2nd, right? So
we're like a week away.
Yeah, this is not like it's we've got to sit around counting down too many days. All right. Jared, we always appreciate your time. Continued success there with Valiant. You're doing a great job, and we always enjoy your insight. It wouldn't be a surprise if we were calling you back and asking you to come on again.
Sounds great, Dennis. Appreciate you for having me on. Thanks for letting me be a recurring guest.
Yeah, great job. Take care.
Awesome. You too.
There he is, Jared Wangler, joining us here. Everybody have a great weekend. We're back on Monday afternoon live. We're after, I haven't said this every show, right after every Michigan football and basketball game. And now basketball's over. No more basketball. It ended last night. When you get down and you get to this level, what was it? It's not a kick in the teeth, but it's one of those things. If somebody would have told you going in, hey, there's going to be an upset in the Sweet 16, one of those top seeds are going down, you'd look and say, is it really going to be Arkansas against Gonzaga? Michigan over Villanova? You could say, hey, even in and you could even say, give it a 50-50 shot in that early session. I asked myself, how many times do I think Michigan would beat Villanova if they played? I don't know, if they played a 7-game series. I think Villanova would sweep Michigan. No. I think it would have been I think Michigan could have got a couple games. Could have been a 6-game series. It shows you what they needed to do Yeah, it's almost too easy talking about a missing layups and free throws. It was under 3 minutes to go. They had a three-pointer. Terrence Williams the second, early in the shot clock. He makes that. It's a 1-point game. So all of those things being said, they had their opportunities there. How this offseason is going to shake out, my gut feels like Hunter Dickinson. I see McCormick saying that these guys will test the waters, but ultimately coming back. I've been through enough. I've been through enough of these. It's different with name, image, and likeness now, but it's different in a good way. If you want to keep guys around from college, if there was no NIL, you could pretty much say these guys are gone. Kidding me? You go to the G League, you get paid, you go whatever, go to Europe. Maybe you're done with school, but this has changed college athletics in a good way. So we'll see how that ends up working out. I'll have of some percentages. Maybe we'll know a little bit more for real instead of just taking a stab at it and saying, I think Dickinson's gone. I think Diabate's out of here. No, maybe know a little bit more. If you want to know right up into the second, you should be, if you're not already, a member of the Maize and Blue Review, TMBR, the Wolverine Den. What I have found, we've been here since November 1st. I always thought I knew a lot about Michigan sports, and I do. But I now find out that I know more. I find out, if not weeks, certainly days before all the news. Like you hear the news, like, oh, I've known that for a couple of weeks. Yeah, I knew that a couple of days ago. That's what happens. The Wolverine Den. All right. Have a great weekend. I'm off to watch some hockey, and then we'll see how the women do tomorrow. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks to Jared Wangler.